waves, you know.
There's dead winds and sun.
Yeah. Amazing.
We have speed.
Oh well. Oh well.
So I'll look at you, right? Not
Yes,
at
please.
Okay.
Yeah. Good. All right. So first, let's talk about this place you're at right now, because first of all, let me tell you, I get an email from Kim, publicist, and I get these every 5 minutes, and I pay a little bit of attention to them, and I usually don't have time to deal with most of them. But right away, I knew we had to do something with you, not just based on the fact that you're obviously very attractive, but I looked up your resume, checked out some videos, and saw your music, and knew you're going to be something special.
Thank you.
How excited are you about what this year holds for you?
I don't know if it's something I can put in words. It's so, I mean, I've worked, my whole life to get to this moment and present my music to the world, and it's taken me through different twists and turns along the way, but finally I'm here, and I'm really proud of the album and the music, and I just can't wait to put it all out. Yeah.
You say your whole life. If you can let people know, when did this all start for you? How young were you? When did you know you had a certain talent and it's time to nurture that?
Well, I started playing piano at 4, and around 15 or 16 I started playing guitar and bass, and I was singing with rock bands in Costa Rica, and as soon as I finished high school I moved here, and that's been always my dream, to put out a record. So I started meeting writers and producers, and keeping myself really busy and active in the studio, and that's how I got to meet really amazing people and got to work with some of my idols, and like Ricky Martin and Black Eyed Peas and Sergio Mendes and Sean Paul, and so it was every little step took me closer to this realization of a dream, which is to put out an album.
Mm-hmm. It seems like obviously the optimal time now, but why not an album years ago, a solo record? Sometimes artists do that and it doesn't go, and it seems like this all happened for a reason, but talk about kind of that journey a little more in depth and how you got to this place.
Well, I've always thought that you should let sort of like destiny or life tell you where to go and not force things, and of course I was trying to put out a solo record, and that was my goal, but just things kept coming my way, like the Sergio Mendes tour or the Ricky Martin tour, or get in the studio with Sean Paul and write a song with him. And I saw that more as an opportunity to educate myself, and just a little bit of a stepping stone for what's coming. And I really did get a really good idea of how this works, how the behind the scenes works, how being on tour, the schedules, how much work is involved, and I think it was an amazing opportunity. And yes, at times I was frustrated because I wanted my album to come out now, but I just let the universe guide me, and it took me 7 years, but here I am.
Each one of those opportunities and things you did are a lifetime dream for so many people to be able to do what you did. Talk about, if we just break them down, since you brought, I want to hear, like, what was the Sergio Mendes?
Sergio Mendes was the very first job, quote unquote, I had, and it was amazing. We toured Japan and inside of the United States within. Okay, let's do that one again.
Sergio.
My English sometimes it's like Sergio Mendes. It was my very first experience, my very first professional job as a musician, and we toured in Japan and within the United States, and Sergio's music is pure bliss. It's Brazilian music. It's very complex and beautiful music. So it was a good school for me as a vocalist, because I had to learn very intricate melodies and perform them. So that was awesome. And then then after that I got in the studio with Sean Paul and with the Black Eyed Peas, and with Sean Paul I co-wrote a song called International Affair. With Black Eyed Peas I co-wrote a song called Latin Girls for their Elephant album, and also with Q-Tip and Mark Ronson I did a song called Tomorrow, and I worked with some jazz artists, Norma Brown and Bonnie James, and I mean every single experience one way or another has influenced and inspired this album Luna Nueva. I think I feel very blessed that I had those experience, you know, for sure.
When did you know you can sing? You mentioned piano at that young of an age. When did you actually start vocalizing and knowing you also had that talent?
I was about 13, I think, maybe 12, 13, but I was part of this dance school, and one day the dance teacher just came and said, okay, for this next performance, you guys are going to sing and dance. And we're all like, okay. So he took us to a vocal coach, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, I can sing, you know, I like this, I like singing. So that's how it started. It was through a dance teacher, and you know, it's never stopped after that.
Were you ever shy, or did you always kind of enjoy the spotlight and having the attention on you?
I'm shy. I'm shy off stage. You know, like when I'm on stage, it feels like fire, and but off stage, I'm a little shy. Yeah.
Who were some of the people when you were young and you were realizing, hey, I can be something special. This is all going to work. Who were the people you looked up to at that age? You emulated either their career or their talents?
I've always been really inspired by female musicians, singers, songwriters, you know. So I grew up listening and getting inspired to a lot of female singer-songwriters like Fiona Apple and Sheryl Crow and Feist, you know. Well, Feist came later, but the female musicians have always inspired me. And growing up in Costa Rica, I always noticed that there was a little bit of Latinas, you know, missing in that field. Like I thought there was always like a void of musicians, singers, songwriters, but that were Latin, that were singing in English and Spanish, or just Spanish. And nowadays there's more and more. There's Natalia Lafourcade and Jimena Sariñana, and I think there's that movement happening. So I always saw that as an opportunity. This is what I want to do, and we need more Latinas, you know, doing this. So.
Both of which those artists are both doing very well. Obviously, they're huge artists and a lot of acclaim. But neither of them are really household names yet with English audiences here. And it seems like this is the record that could really bridge that gap. How exciting is that? And talk about kind of blending those languages on the record.
Yeah, you know, the idea of doing a hybrid record was something that happened very naturally. I went in the studio with no idea what I was going to do. And I just wanted to do something that was very representative of who I am as a person, and this is who I am. I'm Costa Rican. I live in America, and I speak both languages fluently, so why not make an album that represents that? And so halfway through the album, I realized that I deliberately wanted to make that statement. You know, there's a generation like me that speaks both languages, and not only that, it's a statement about the world becoming smaller regardless of what cultures, what background. So yeah, I mean, my hope is that this album makes that statement and reaches a large amount of people.
But because it's so organic like that and so comfortable for you, it probably also that shows in the music, and people are going to really respond to what you're doing.
Yeah, it's musically also, I think it's very representative of that culmination of so many years working with all these different artists, and also growing up in Costa Rica, which is geographically, you know, right in the middle of the continent, Central America, and we get music. I mean, I grew up listening to everything from rock, pop, R&B, you know, coming from America, to reggaeton, salsa, merengue, vallenato, you know, you name it. I mean, I grew up listening to everything. So I think that also sonically is very representative of who I am.
For people that don't know how successful you are in Costa Rica, if you can just kind of put into words your first big success there and what things are like for you in Costa Rica.
Well, Costa Rica, you know, it's a very supportive country, and just in general, the spirit there, we have this saying called pura vida, which means pure life, and really you feel that there. It's you breathe it, and people are very supportive, especially to artists and musicians. And so anyways, I had, in 2004, I put out a song called One Rhythm, and One Rhythm, Un Ritmo is called in Spanish, in Spanglish. It was played there in Costa Rica, and did hit #1 in the Billboard dance charts. And So yeah, I always try to put the name of my country up there because I think it's a beautiful country, and I'm really proud to represent it.
Talk about, because you can sit there at the piano, as we're going to hear, and probably just belt out a day's worth of beautiful songs. But you also do these big, great dance songs, like the first single. Just talk about finding that joy for you, doing everything, and feeling comfortable and all that, and as we're going to hear on the record.
Yes, I love dancing, I love playing instruments, I love ballads, and I also love going to a club and dancing. So I wanted to make an album that incorporated that, and it was a challenge. It was a challenge to get all those elements together and not make it sound like a big mess, So it took a little bit of thought, but I think at the end, the way I chose songs were songs that really meant something to me, and that songs, even the up tempos start with a piano, and maybe I'll show you a little later, like how like a little lick on the piano can inspire an up tempo, a dance song like Drummer Boy, which is my single right now, and that song started with a synth lick or a keyboard lick, and so everything starts from a little idea that comes from an instrument, and that, whether it turns into a beautiful orchestrated ballad or, an more electronic, dancey song, that's each song. But every single song in the album starts from a musical idea, so that's how I chose the songs.
Are you the kind of artist that's always being creative? Are you at a piano every day or have a guitar in your hands at least once a day doing something?
Every single day I play at least 1 hour a day. Piano is my first love, so I always tend to sit in the piano more, but I do play guitar whenever, there's a guitar lying around. I like making noise, so whatever's around, I'll play it.
I know that you've done some commercial work, and talk about just putting yourself out there and acting and modeling, everything you've been up to. The people may have seen you on TV and not realize.
Yeah, it's juicy. That was my that was my line on McDonald's. Yeah, McDonald's commercials. Yeah, I mean, part of the journey here in Los Angeles, you gotta pay bills and you gotta support your passion. So luckily, I was able to do a couple of gigs here and there and some jingles that maintain my art. So yes, some people might recognize me from some commercials.
Well, it looked really natural because you do spend time on the beach.
I do. When I can, it's definitely my haven. It's my favorite place to be.
When did you start actually surfing?
I didn't start that young. I started when I was like 16, and I started in Costa Rica, and then I moved here the next year. So I was a little shocked about the temperature of the water here in California. So I didn't surf for a while, but it's always been in my circles, in my blood. Like all my friends are surfers, and I grew up with surfers, and my brother's a surfer, and so it's in my family, and we do it, and for me, it's just a really good way to clear my head and to get in touch with myself. It's very peaceful out there in the ocean. So one of my favorite things to do.
You've already...
He just wants to jump in really quick.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay, thank you.
All right, we're back.
Good. Your Ricky Martin experience, if you can talk about that, and the tour, and how much time you actually spent with him, and what that was like. 'Cause in our experience with him, he seems like the sweetest, nicest guy in the whole world. You can kind of...
He is. Ricky Martin is definitely the sweetest guy I've worked with, and he's just very humble and very much about giving back, to the world. He uses his voice for good causes, So besides that, working with him was just an amazing way to learn how to be, a superstar on stage, because that man steps on stage and it's like he really pours his heart and soul into what he does. And I got to see that firsthand. I was there right next to him, and his energy is amazing. It's very angelic, and besides that, as a fellow Latino, it was just really it was just really good to have that support from him and to have that opportunity, you know, because it's similar to where I'm from, and so we connected that way. And you know, the experience was crazy. It was living la vida loca, you know. We traveled around the world. We went to 13 different countries in like 6 months, and playing big stage. I mean, for me, it was all very new, and probably one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had.
Mm-hmm. Now that everyone's about to know your name, you'll probably have your pick of people you can work with over the coming year or two. Who are some of your dream artists you'd love to share a stage with, record a duet with? Are there people out that are on your list that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, I mean, I have many, but I think my top one, my number one, is Sting. I've been a big fan of his since I was a little girl, and I just adore him, and I think he's an amazing musician, amazing songwriter, and I think just the fact that he does yoga, I do yoga. Like, I don't know, I think musically would be amazing. So it's one of my dreams, yeah, to work with him.
What's it like when I'm sure people have come up to you and they've asked you for advice, and what do you tell people when someone who's just starting out and wants to do what you do? Is there any advice you give to? Yes,
I think for me the biggest lesson throughout this whole thing is that, you know, you never do it for the destination, you do it for the journey, and that every little step will take you to the next step. So that requires patience, you know, perseverance, practice, and what was the 4P, and being present, you know, it's the 4 Ps. So that would be my advice, to just believe in yourself and remain present and remain patient, and know that whatever you want, you can get. Yeah.
What's it like knowing, now that you're on MTV, seeing yourself on MTV, knowing that, you know, people are starting to, they're hearing this song and this album's, it's all going the way it should?
You know, it's so new. I mean, I maybe if I see you in a couple months, I'll be able to give you a better answer of what it's like. But right now, I'm just taking it in and seeing it. I mean, it's all so new and so exciting, and you know, I don't know how to describe it. It's just it's crazy. It's crazy, yeah.
How often do you go home to Costa Rica? Do you still have family there that kind of watch your moves and see what's next for you?
Yes, actually today the single came out in Costa Rica. The video and the single came out to radio, so I got all these phone calls from my mom, my dad, my grandmother, you know, and so yeah, I try to go quite often. I mean, luckily it's not that far away, so I can go pretty often. I mean, I'm always homesick, you know, I always miss it there, but yeah, I try to go as much as I can.
And what does this year hold in terms of touring, and as this album comes out, what are your kind of hopes and dreams for the types of things you'll be doing?
Well, I really want to travel the world, you know. I want to travel the world promoting this album, Luna Nueva, and hopefully make a statement about the world becoming smaller and breaking down barriers through music. And, you know, I just see myself always writing and composing and singing and making music. So it's just the beginning.
Very good. Perfect. Perfect.
Thank you.
Well done.
Cool.
Good.
Do we want to go over there?
Yeah. So nothing else.
Tell me.
Temple gets 3,000 sometimes just at one gathering.
The what? Oh, yeah. Here in LA?
One camp get together, yeah.
Oh, I know. I mean, we're all over the place, but
Yeah.
did you know that there was any? Because usually when people are like, really?
Well, I always assume there's something, but
Yeah.
you never know how big of a...
Yeah, it's a small community.
Yeah.
I grew up, went to Hebrew high school and everything.
Wow.
So, kind of odd.
That's good. Interesting.
Yeah.
Let me ask you one more thing I wanted to ask before you start playing. Just, you were saying everything, Pope?
Yeah,
Just already having achieved so much success, how important is the fame part of it all? Is it something you're already kind of used to in terms of things like magazine covers and being out there? None of that's new for you in lots of ways, so even more of that now, is it more exciting? You're already kind of over that now, and it's all about
it's always exciting, you know, like it never ceases to give you adrenaline and be exciting. I mean, it doesn't matter how small or how big the magazine is or the auditorium is, you know, it always gives you butterflies. So, yes, I mean, I'm used, I guess I've done things that have gotten me prepared for this point, but it's always, it's always a big adrenaline moment, so, yeah.
Cool.
I think once that stops, that's when you think, you should really think about it, because the adrenaline is always an indicator that things are good, you know, that you're doing the right thing, I think.
The first time you were on the cover of a magazine, what was that?
It was great because, you know, I just love when I get the phone call from my grandmothers, you know, both of them, that, oh my God, we're so proud of you. I mean, that's really, for me, the most satisfying thing, you know, is making the people that I love proud of me and happy. So, so really, that's been my most satisfying reward from all of this. Is, yeah, my family.
Cool, great.
So, I mean, do you?
You can play a song we can talk about afterwards. Or you want to show?
Okay, so a song like Drummer Boy, for example, you know, even though it turned into a dance up-tempo song, it really started with a beat. We wanted to do something that was very much like what was going on in the Latin pop world. So we got inspired from reggaeton and dancehall and pitbull and, you know, just what would, you know, that kind of. And so I worked with these Australian songwriters, Dan and Leah, and they had this beat going. And so, you know, a song like this, for example, starts with a musical idea that goes like. And it's just that, you know. Let's play, forget conversation. Let's break from our situation. Let go from sundown to Sunday. Así atrévete. When the beat drops, we go bum bum. Go show off the bum bum. All the boys play bum bum. Everybody here wanna get them some. Drummer boy, come play us a song. Everyone, wherever you're from, never say let's all get along. Marching to the same bum bum. Drummer boy, wherever you are, it's in the beat of my heart. Let the rhythm play till we turn. Marching to the same drum. Come on, eat, dale, 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 que my. Your groove is getting me tipsy. Swing around you like a gypsy. Can't help to move to your rim shot. I see no digas que no. When the beat drops, we go. And all the girls show up there. Bum bum. All the boys play fire. Bum bum. Everybody here wanna get them some. Drummer boy, come play us a song. Everyone, wherever you're from, never say let's all get along. Marching to the same bum bum. Drummer boy, wherever you are, it's in the beat of my heart. Let the rhythm play till we turn. Marching to the same drum. Come on, dale, 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 bum bum, dale, dale. Drummer boy, play on,
St. Joe. Come on, in, dale, 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 come on, dale, dale, por pom pom, dale, dale, por pom pom.
That was drama boy.
That's awesome.